Evening, everybody. Welcome once again. It's very nice to see all of you once more. And I want to welcome you to our last day of training. You have been a great class, worked very hard to ensure that we have completed this course successfully. So we are getting to the last part of the course. And we are glad that you have been able to stay through the entire course. So today we're going to, remember we are looking at evidence-based practices. I hope you do remember what we looked at in the last class. You remember that Moses took us through motivational interviewing, and we also looked at family approaches. So today we are going to look at two more evidence-based practices. The first one is called contingency management. And then Moses will take us through the other very interesting section about pharmacotherapy. And today, because we will have a little more time at the end, you're free to ask him a few more questions because I saw lots of questions about pharmacotherapy. So we begin by looking at contingency management. The first question we want to ask ourselves is, what is contingency management? It is important that we keep in mind that contingency management is based on behavioral approaches. When we introduced CBT in the last class, we talked about behavioral approach. And we said behavioral approach is based on the philosophy that any behavior is acquired through learning. And therefore, when you hear that contingency management is based on behavioral approach, then you expect that some of the ideas will be about the learning theory. It will be about reinforcement. Remember, we talked about rewards. And we should have said that these rewards can be both tangible as well as social rewards. So the basis of contingency management is the use of a reward system to keep the client on course with regards to the behavior. And that's what this slide is talking about. That behavior that is reinforced is likely to be repeated, and behavior that is not reinforced is likely not to be repeated. So in SUD treatment, contingency management means that we give clients a chance to earn rewards for behavior that is desirable. Now, some of the ideas of contingency management and substance use disorder argue that substance abuse is maintained by certain reinforcing effects of the substance itself. For example, some people use substances to relieve a negative effect of withdrawal. Others use substances to perform better. Others use substances to overcome certain social inhibitions. What this means is that the substance use has some positive effects that the person using the substance pursues. And therefore, if we want to change behavior, we must replace that reinforcing effect of substances with something else that is more rewarding from our own environment. That is what contingency management is about. We note that the process of becoming abstinent has a lot of rewards at the end for the client. However, and these are some of the rewards, they'll have a healthier lifestyle, they will gain employment and self-sufficiency, some will get back to school, others will be able to improve their relationships, whether at the family level, office level, or even community level. So all those are rewards. Unfortunately, these rewards are long-term. Now, if they are long-term, it means that the client may not actually wait or have the capacity to wait to experience those long-term rewards. And therefore, before the changes can actually occur and the client begins to experience the internal rewards, we need to sustain their commitment to change. And that sustaining is what makes us use external rewards, and that's what contingency management is about. So contingency management will use external rewards to motivate the client, for example, to adhere to treatment, such as attending their sessions, to maintain abstinence, such as staying free from the substance, as well as making other lifestyle changes, which could even include change of the company that they keep. Now, in terms of motivation, contingency management uses motivation in the sense that we want to motivate the behavior change and the abstinence by doing several things. One, we want to systematically reward desirable behaviors. I want to emphasize the word systematically because that is the hallmark of contingency management. We do not reward in an ad hoc manner. We do not reward in a random manner, whereby sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So when we begin to use contingency management, we must create a structure of how we are going to use this reward system to sustain the behaviors we want to strengthen. Usually, the reinforcers are or must be positive. They must be pleasurable, and they must be rewarding to the client. That is what we call positive reinforcement. But we also have what we call negative reinforcers. They are not negative because they have a negative impact. They are negative, they are named negative because the way they work is by something being removed from the client. For example, if the client had a restriction or a fine or had been asked to been denied a privilege, and now they behave well, and you decide to take away that restriction or remove that fine or give back that privilege, that is why we call them negative reinforcers. But in essence, whether a reinforcer is positive or negative, it is geared towards strengthening behavior. So that is what contingency management is about. Now, the guiding principles of contingency management include the following. First and most important, we must identify the behavior that is observable and measurable. Remember, we said that that is a characteristic of behaviorists. They only consider behaviors that you can observe and you can measure. So for us to say we want to use contingency management, we must identify the specific behavior that we want to focus on, that is called the target behavior, which must be observable and measurable. For example, let's give the example of abstinence. Abstinence measured in terms of what? For example, giving a drug-free urine sample. That could be a measurable indicator. So you pick that as the behavior you want to target as a way of measuring abstinence. That's the behavior that you're going to reinforce. Now, the selected desired behavior that you want to look at must be in line with the ultimate goals of behavior change or what you want to achieve. So the essence in contingency management is that we want to use what we would call baby steps. We want to reward small changes, and gradually these small changes build up to the big change that we want to see in the client. Now, other guiding principles on contingency management include the following. We need to ensure that the rewards we choose are considered important by the client. It is important to note, for something to be reinforcing or to act as a reinforcer, it must be considered so by the individual you're trying to reinforce. And we do know that sometimes what you consider reinforcing to you is not necessarily reinforcing to another person. A good example is in schools and parents. Sometimes parents give or promise their children gifts for doing well in school, but without realizing that the gifts they are promising have little meaning for their children. So if you want to be effective in reinforcement, ensure that you choose one that is considered important to the client, so you can actually ask them. The second very important principle on this slide is the immediacy. That's why actually this approach is called contingency management, in the sense that the behavior and the reward are tied very closely in time. So the reward is dependent on the behavior, and it needs to be given immediately so that the client can connect that reward to that behavior. Many times we use rewards in our systems, but we forget to be consistent and we forget to be immediate. The other important point is we need to reinforce with frequency. For example, we may decide for every time this behavior is emitted or it is produced by the client, there shall be a reinforcer. The other thing that's very important that we fail many times is to keep our promise. Once you have made that contract that this is how you're going to deliver the rewards, you must make efforts to ensure that they are given as promised. The final bullet is emphasizing the need to keep on improving the quality or the quantity or the value of the reward as the behavior continues to change. So we begin with smaller rewards, and as the behavior change increases, we provide some greater incentives in an escalating manner so as to enhance the client's behavior change. That's what that is about. Now, it's important to note that we can use several types of rewards or contingencies when we are working with clients. For example, one of them can be access to privileges. Now, in some institutions or in some treatment facilities, you may find something like watching TV valued by clients, but there is a restriction on the amount of hours that you can spend watching TV. So if a client is given the privilege of some additional time to watch television, that may actually be considered a reward to that client, especially in relation to the behavior that they have emitted or they have observed. The second one is what we call on-site price distribution. This is where you could actually have gifts of different types that are given to the clients at their treatment sites or when they come for treatment. The third one is using of refunds and rebates. This is where in some centers, you find that a client can actually pay for the entire treatment cost, but if they cooperate and are successful with the program, at the end of it, they actually get some refund or some rebate. So that is supposed to motivate them to continue with the program. And the final one is the use of vouchers, or what we call token economy. Now, really, token economy is basically where we use different types of items that can substitute something that is rewarding. For example, in schools, I see teachers using what we call a star. So the child does something nice, and there is a star that the teacher writes on their book or sticks on their book. And then at the end of the term, or at the end of a certain period, these many stars can be exchanged for actual rewards, tangible rewards. So tokens replace tangible rewards, but they can be converted, or they are eventually converted to tangible rewards. And so for every number of these tokens, we continue. And it's nice that we are actually on the slide of challenges, and we just experienced a challenge. So nothing more appropriate than this, you know? So remember what we just said. Yeah, it's a good coincidence. Remember what we just said, that contingency management is about finding rewards in our environment that we can use to sustain the change we want the client to make or the client is trying to make. And hopefully over time, internal motivation can take charge and be able to continue motivating the behavior change. So this we use in the beginning, and we begin with small rewards to ensure that we are not giving unrealistic awards to clients. And of course, we did say just before we got kicked out that we have to ensure that the rewards that we are going to use are rewarding to our client. And it's not good to assume that what's rewarding to you is necessarily rewarding to the client. Now, some of the challenges of using contingency management is that of identifying a reward for a desired behavior that is practical, one that is available without too much cost or expenditure of staff energy, one that is sufficiently powerful over time to replace, remember, the potentially very powerful effects or reinforcing effects of the substance. So sometimes it can be challenging to identify those rewards. And that's why sometimes we use tokens, because the good thing with tokens is that they can be anything. They can be chips, they can be designed within the center using paper, using cards and anything. So the idea is to use something that you can give immediately, and it can then be exchanged for a tangible reward. And at the same time, you may also use tokens that can accumulate. And when they accumulate to a certain number, they become equivalent to a certain reward. So that's the beauty of using tokens, and that can be used to overcome this challenge. The other important way in which contingency management has been applied is to what is referred to as the community reinforcement approach. Now, community reinforcement approach borrows from the concept of contingency management, but goes beyond the treatment setting to the community where the client is. And the idea is to have the community identify reinforcement for the client within their setting. And so the general idea is the same. We want to have a situation where our client experiences reinforcement of different types from their community, whether it's their immediate family, whether it is their neighborhood, whether it is maybe they're in a court system and there is the probation officer that's working with them. So it is within the community. And the idea is we want to enhance behavior that is geared towards sobriety and cease to reinforce behavior that is promoting substance use. But now, because it's being done within the community, then we want to make sure that the family is involved and other social systems of the client. So in this particular case, you use socio-recreational, familial, and vocational reinforcers rather than the material rewards, which are within a program. So it's broader. That's why it's called community reinforcement. It's based on the premise that within the environment, there are resources that can be effective in changing substance use behavior. And we are noting that it has a strong case management approach as a requirement, because someone has to monitor the family. If, for example, it's within the family, you want the parents to be able to reinforce a positive behavior. That reinforcement need not be tangible. It could actually be social. It could be something like appreciating a youngster when they come home sober or when they stay out of drugs. That is a reinforcer, which is not necessarily material and which is offered within the family. So we need to ensure that we teach the community, or we teach the significant other persons in the client's life to offer this kind of rewards. Now, this community reinforcement approach, together with the use of vouchers, is one of the documented evidence-based practices. So it was structured, it was intensive and given for a 24-week outpatient therapy treatment of clients that were struggling with cocaine and alcohol addiction. And the goals of this approach was to maintain abstinence long enough so that the client could then learn new skills of sustaining abstinence, which is long-term. And the other goal was to reduce alcohol consumption for clients whose drinking was associated with cocaine use. So the target behavior was remove cocaine use. And because cocaine use was related to alcohol consumption, so the idea was to reduce alcohol consumption as a way of working through cocaine use. And so this approach was used. The clients attended 1 or 2 individual counseling sessions per week, and they'd focus on many different things. And that's the other thing about the community reinforcement approach. It looks at the broader environment of the client. So they sought to improve the family relationships of the client, which could as well have been triggers It taught to teach learning skills that were necessary for reducing drug and alcohol use. The client, received vocational counseling, which is important towards vocational skilling. And it also developed new recreational activities and social networks. So you can see why we're calling it a community reinforcement, is looking for activities within the environment of the client, within the community, that can substitute the reinforcement that comes from the substance use. Now, in addition, vouchers were also used. That's why it's being called a community reinforcement approach plus vouchers. And these ones were exchanged for retail goods consistent with cocaine-free lifestyle. So when the client exhibited a cocaine-free lifestyle, perhaps through a clean drug test or a drug test without cocaine, then they would earn a voucher, and these vouchers would then eventually be exchanged for goods that were valuable and important to the client. Now, in terms of outcomes, it was found that there were many good things that came out of this approach. First, it really did facilitate clients to engage in treatment. You do know that one of our biggest headaches is how to bring clients to just enter into treatment. Of course, the other one is how to keep them in treatment. And the other challenge is how to sustain the treatment. So this approach was found effective in facilitating clients to get into treatment and also facilitating the increasing periods of cocaine abstinence. So it has been found to be effective also with other groups. For example, a variety of adult and adolescent populations, a variety of people from different ethnic backgrounds, and also in several settings, which is important, whether it's outpatient, whether it is residential programs, whether it is methadone maintenance clinics, as well as other specialized programs for adolescents. I have had an experience of one country which uses methadone maintenance clinics, and they actually use this approach to enhance clients' attendance of the methadone maintenance clinics. Again, we are also saying that there is documented evidence that it can actually be effective across the different types of substance use addictions, whether alcohol, stimulants, opioids, marijuana, and nicotine. So this small exercise will be done the way we did the other one. And I want to thank all of you because you worked very hard to ensure that you responded to your assignment. I saw the different regions put in their foot very strongly, and they did the assignment. So using the very same groups, we are going to do this assignment for contingency management after this class in the discussion group. I hope we remember which group was doing what. I know Kim said she confused a little, but later she sorted it out. I think group 1 was Western Africa, group 2 was Eastern Africa, I think group 3 was Southern Africa, and I think group 4 was Northern Africa. If I have mixed them up, please send me a quick chat and we shall be correcting that before the end of the class. Otherwise, you will go to resource page, I think it is 7.6, and you're going to see all the nice notes that you need for this contingency management. And with that, I wish now to hand it over to Moses to take it up from there. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome once again to another session. Thank you for your active participation and enthusiasm in this training. We're going to talk about pharmacotherapy for opioid dependence. I want to quickly say that it's just an introduction. It's not something that is exhaustive. It's just to introduce us to the various types of medications that are used for opioid dependence. We don't have protocols here for using, and we don't go in depth into how to use it and manage withdrawal symptoms, but it's just to tell us that there are a group of medications that are used. And this is just more like an introductory class. And also I want to apologize because my system will not allow me to share the slide and also my video. So once I put on the slide, the video is switched off. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Pharmacotherapy for opioid dependence. What is pharmacotherapy? It's defined as the use of medically prescribed psychoactive substances to treat psychiatric and behavioral conditions. and also called medication-assisted treatment. So you can use psychoactive substances to treat some other substance disorders, maybe opioid, whatever class of psychoactive substances, one might be indulged in. You can still use some of these medications to treat them. But we are, this time, we're particularly concerned about opioid at the moment. Pharmacotherapy usages. One, pharmacotherapy, aids in acute withdrawal or tapering from psychoactive substances. We had discussed this in the previous module. Acute withdrawal, when you stop the drug, or the substance abruptly, and then tapering means that you keep reducing it, and until you wean the client off the drug. So that's what tapering, means. So one is acute, and the other one is a slow process of detoxifying the client. Okay, replace an opioid, either for a short or long term. We can use pharmacotherapy as a replacement therapy or substitution therapy, like in the case of methadone for opioid dependence. So we can use it either for a short time, actually to even help in the withdrawal, or as a long-term maintenance or substitution therapy. It discourages use of an opioid by reducing its reinforcing properties. The medications don't actually reinforce the use of the opioids, but as we say, it discourages the use of an opioid, and this it does by reducing its reinforcing properties. So the high you get from some of those substances like heroin, you may not get it when your medications are prescribed, because they are actually controlled so that they don't become as addictive as the substance that you want to substitute. And then they aid early recovery by reducing cravings or counteracting longer term symptoms of withdrawal. Sometimes the patients are able to manage with the withdrawal symptoms, but they tell you that the craving for the substance is overwhelming, and that's why they go back, taking it. And also the longer term symptoms of withdrawal can persist for a longer period. So if you are able to use opioid or medication assisted treatment, then the person is able to, become detoxified without actually undergoing through the adverse effects of that associated with the withdrawal from the substance of choice or of use. The background: medications are available for alcohol, opioids, and nicotine. Opioid medication must be prescribed by a medical practitioner. As I said, this is just an introductory course. It's not for any non-medical personnel to prescribe, and even the medical personnel must be someone who is trained in the use of this alcohol, because they have their own drawbacks. The person can overdose, and you can have severe withdrawal symptoms. Then what do you do? It's only the medically trained that will be able to handle such, so that the patient is not put in a very serious problem. And WHO calls for combining pharmacotherapy with counseling, like CBT and continuity management and case management. So this substitution therapy, maintenance therapy, or detoxification is not a standalone thing, as we said in the previous module, but it's combined with counseling to be more effective. So if you want to give an effective result, you must combine this with counseling at every stage you are doing. Otherwise, you may not be able to get the cooperation of the client, and also medication will not be able to work on the psychological, social, and other behavioral problems that the client experiences. So you need counseling to be able to handle those aspects. So in the WHO guidelines, it calls for using both medication and counseling. And the counselor will say CBT contingency management, and also case management. Medication-assisted therapy for opioid disorders. Yes, you uses one of the following three medications if you are using opioid. These are the ones that are commonly used. Of course, there are others that are not as effective as these ones, but you can use naltrexone or buprenorphine or methadone. We'll get to know more about them as we move on. Naltrexone acts as a competitor. It blocks all the effects of opioids at the receptor level and preventing a person from getting high. So if a client is, for instance, dependent on heroin, and then you place him on naltrexone, you are likely to precipitate an acute withdrawal because it's going to block the effects of the heroin, and then the person will go into acute withdrawal syndrome. But if he has already been detoxified, and then you put him on naltrexone, and he goes back to take the heroin, he's not going to experience the high because naltrexone is a competitor and it blocks the effect of the heroin, so the effect is nullified. Also, to prevent immediate and severe opioid withdrawal symptoms, a person must be medically detoxified and opioid-free for several days before beginning naltrexone. Commonly for methadone, you will not want to use something like naltrexone, except you have detoxified the patient for, I think you wait for at least like 10 days before you start the use of naltrexone. But for either like buprenorphine, you might use you can wait for a week before you start the naltrexone. So it depends on the half-life and how much the person has been using the drug and then the severity of the withdrawal symptoms. So it's not something that you do immediately. It's not used to detoxify, rather it can precipitate withdrawal symptoms, but you can use it to, to prevent or to diminish cravings for the drug, and also to block the effect or the desirable effects of the substance that the client is dependent on. Naltrexone compliance is often a problem, so it is seldom used. We have used it occasionally, but as the slides tells us, most times if they're not highly motivated, you only be wasting your time, because if they take it and then discover that they go by using the substance and they're not feeling the desirable effects that they get from the substance, then they throw it away. But if they are highly motivated, say, look, I want to abstain from this substance. I don't want to use it anymore. Now, if you give them the naltrexone, you can get good result because they're highly motivated. They want to achieve abstinence. So they will take it faithfully so that even if they're tempted to take the substance, they will not get the high. And that has helped a few patients actually to abstain from the substance, the opioids. And also I've used it also for those who are struggling for alcohol dependence, from alcohol dependence. And a few of them who were highly motivated, I really wanted to extend, succeeded. But there's a new injectable form available in the United States, Vivitrol. And it's a depot injection. You give it like in a monthly injection. So that helps. If the client is actually motivated and really wants to stop, then he can just go for his monthly injection. And once you go for monthly injection, you know that it's going to last you for that 1 month. So that even if you have a sleep and you go back taking the substance, the opioid, you will not feel the effect. So, and the substance is already there in the system, then you go back again for another month. That has helped a lot of people to actually withdraw and to abstain and to enjoy their journey to recovery from opioids. Buprenorphine or Subutex. This is a partial agonist. It works also, it works like the other opioids, but it's just a partial agonist. That means it doesn't block all the receptors, as much as the food agonist, does. So it only blocks it partially. So it reduces or eliminates withdrawal symptoms without producing euphoria and sedation caused by heroin or other opioids. It's commonly used in other places. But one of the drawbacks is that at high doses, it can produce euphoria. So it can produce euphoria just like the substance of choice or the substance that the client is dependent on. So it is often combined with another medication that blocks these effects, commonly naltrexone, which is like an antagonist. So if you take high doses, you're not going to get the effect that you are looking for because the naltrexone is there to block the effects. So it makes it safer to use buprenorphine. So it's another drug that, or medicine or medication that is used for those who are dependent on opioids. You can use it for them. But methadone is a full agonist. It blocks the receptors as much as the other opioids do. For instance, if the client is dependent on heroin, you can replace the heroin with methadone. It's almost like the gold standard because it's used very widely. And in fact, in the WHO, methadone is included in the essential drug list. We have it in my country, but we have not started using it because it's not been distributed yet. They're still working on logistics. So maintenance treatments in specialized settings, you have methadone clinics in some other clients. When I need it, I get it because I make a case for it and I don't give the peace until they get it for me from the federal government store. So I'm able to use it when I need it for my clients. The only thing is that they insist that I have to pay for it because sometimes they say you must pay for the courier service or you must pay for transportation, you must pay for this. I say, I don't mind, get me methadone, I need it, and it has helped. Also, stabilized clients may receive take-home doses. If you are treating a client and the client, you have been able to withdraw the client successfully, and like you maintain it for some time on the methadone, and you are able, and the client is adjusting very well and is recovering very well, you don't have to make the client come, for instance, on a daily basis to get the to sign and get daily dose of methadone. But you can, for instance, at weekends, what I do is that at weekends, if the client has stabilized, at weekends I say, okay, I give you for Friday, take the one for Friday, go with the one for Saturday, Sunday, then Monday you come back. So you can do that, and if you have done it successfully for a long time, then you can now say, okay, I can give you even weekly doses, depending on the client. If you trust them and if they are doing very well, you can do that. But at the beginning, you don't do that because there's the risk, to take overdose, and it can be very lethal at low doses. So that's why you have to be very careful. In fact, you build up the dose to an optimum dose that works for the client. You don't just start with a high dose. No, you build it up gradually to the optimum dose that the client needs. Methadone function prevents opioid withdrawal and blocks euphoric effects of illicit opioid use, decreases craving. As I said, for some people, they can cope with the other physical symptoms, but the craving is what they say is overwhelming. So if you use methadone, they don't crave for it. If you get the right dose. Stabilized clients can work, just like Beatrice shared earlier. They can work because you know the amount of substance, the medication you're giving them, you know the dose, you know the purity of the drug, you know the side effects you expect, and you know that you're giving them at a safe level. You are not going to a lethal dose, so they are not gonna overdose with it. So for that, they can just come and take it and go to work, and they can take care of their families, avoid crime and violence, and they reduce exposure to HIV. When they are dependent on the drug and cannot get it, they can commit all kinds of criminal offenses just to get the money to be able to get the drug. One of my clients told me that, in fact, he would be ready to kill when he's in withdrawal if he doesn't get the money to buy the drug. So that's how bad it can be for some people. And it reduces also exposure to HIV. If, for instance, some of them will be injecting, and some of them, when they take it, they lose control of themselves. The judgment is impaired, so they take all kind of risky, behaviors, and because of that, they can put themselves, in danger and can also contract HIV. So when you do this, you are able to solve this problem. Most people in my environment, some people are not happy with replacement therapy. They say you limit the client's ability, to take care of themselves. They have what it takes. They have the resources, and they are capable. So why are you limiting them by giving them another substance? God forbid, you can't introduce my son, my daughter, or my ward to another drug. I don't believe in that. I believe that they have the power to overcome all this. So, but studies have shown, and evidence is there to show that people who are maintained or who don't know mental do very well, and they're able to go back to work and function in almost all spheres of their lives. Now we'll come to small group exercise, pharmacotherapy. I'm going to go by Beatrice's grouping. Group 1, West Africa. Group 2, East Africa. Group 3, Northern Africa, and then Group 4, Southern Africa. So you look at this, you go to your resource pages, and you take all this and look at resource pages 7.6 and 7.7, and then answer questions for us. So the questions you are going to answer for the group 1 is primary techniques or the application of all this stuff, pharmacotherapy. Then the group 2, you look at the challenges, and then group 3, overview of the characteristics. And then number 4, the strength, of pharmacotherapy. So we are going to do. I don't think we have the time to wait for you to carry out this assignment, but you can do it and maybe put on the chat or on the email. Then we can read and discuss further from there. But these are the assignments. But there are other assignments too. I will maintain the same group, and then we look at this as small groups exercise. For, let's say, for West and East Africa, I want you to look at which evidence-based practices are you using in your organization and area. You can answer wherever you work, just tell us what you actually do, and then which evidence-based practices would be most difficult to implement based on your organizational, regional, and cultural perspectives. What are some of the challenges? I think all the regions can take this question. So Northern Africa, East Africa, West Africa, South Africa, you can answer these questions. We want to know what's obtainable in your own settings, and also we want to know what difficulties or what challenges you might find in implementing this. I know that some of you are already conversant with medication assisted therapies, but for some of the countries, they are still behind. But even in my country, it's not really well established. You have to really work hard to be able to get methadone and some of these medications to use. So I want you to answer them in the chat or the email. Then there's another one for large group. Maybe we can do that for now. Large group discussions. What commentaries did you hear in the summaries? Well, if you had answered these questions, we would have had, summarized what you answered. Then what type of SUD counseling is used in your region? Maybe we have 1 or 2 people. These are supposed to be group exercises, but because of the medium we're using, we can't conduct it, as much as we can when we're like maybe when we're interfacing with one another. But we can still go ahead and maybe one or two people can answer the question, what type of SUD counseling is used in your own region, and then what models and practices might be most promising to explore given the populations you serve. I would like maybe, since we have some few minutes, I would like one from each region to answer, maybe to give us an idea of what to do. One from Northern Africa, one from Southern Africa, one from East Africa, one from West Africa. So please help us to answer some of these questions. Let's get to know what you do in your own setting. What type of SUD counseling is used in your region? And then what models and practices might be most promising to explore given the populations you serve? I know that the settings vary, but let us get an idea of what you do in your settings. And the administrator, please help us. I just give like 5 minutes for this exercise because I want contribution from all the regions, from the 4 regions. What type of SUD counseling is used in your region, and then what models and practices might be most promising to explore given the populations you serve? Because you might not be using all models, but now that we've gone through this presentation, there might be some practices that you want to really explore and you think they are promising if you apply them in your own region. So we want to know which one you would like to explore in your own region. 5 minutes. So now we have 4 minutes more. Three more minutes.
We have a couple of responses. Would you like me to read them for you?
Okay. Yes, please. Yes, please go ahead and read them. Thank you.
Okay. So we have South Africa. We use motivational interviewing together with pharmacotherapy, and they would want to use an integrated approach, including family therapies.
Oh, great.
And then in Egypt, the intensive outpatient program is more and more helping and growing.
Okay.
We have SUD counseling, MI, and CBT. In
That's
Malawi, Southern Africa, CBT and MI are commonly practiced. Medically assisted treatment is way to go now as more severe cases present at the hospital.
Thank you.
And then we also have
from the other regions.
We have Eastern Africa,
Okay.
CBT and pharmacotherapy.
Okay.
And
That's good. I will have for my people in West Africa.
and Sierra Leone used pharmacotherapy.
Okay.
There is also something above there from Western Africa, the CBT and pharmacotherapy, just above.
Oh, thank you. Any other before we move on?
And we have one from Uganda, CBT and MI would like to explore pharmacotherapy and possibly methadone. And in Ghana, they use community approaches.
Okay. So thank you for your great responses. Beatrice will continue from here. She'll take Morocco's place.
Thank you, Moses. So I can share screen a bit. We're going to actually wind up this course, and we are winding up with just a recap of Module 7. Module 7 was extremely long with many evidence-based practices. So we're going to end up with a little fun exercise, which I call a treasure hunt. So we're going to share a screen. Kindly enable me to share a screen, Jessica.
All right.
So we're going to do a small recap of our many therapies here. So we're going to do a treasure hunt. You remember the different therapies we have covered under EBPs. We have covered cognitive behavior therapy or CBT. We've covered motivational enhancement. We've covered a brief strategic family therapy. We've covered multisystemic therapy. We've covered behavioral couples therapy. We've covered pharmacotherapy. We have covered multidimensional family therapy, community reinforcement approach, and even contingency management. So we're going to be trying to respond to this exercise together. If you are doing a face-to-face, the way to do this exercise is to actually write many slips of paper with different statements, and you put them in a place together, and you put your participants in the groups representing the different theories, and you ask them to pick the slips that touch on their theory and stick on a wall for their theory. The idea is you want to reinforce the learning that has occurred about this theory. So we're just going to do a little bit of that using this. So you have got your 9 or so therapies here. I hope you can all see. Maybe I make it a little bigger, okay? So we have 9 therapies here and we have 9 statements. So I'm going to read a statement and you're going to pick the theory. And you're going to throw it in the chat so that I pick it from the chat. I hope I can see the chat. If I can't see the chat, I might ask people to raise their hands. I think that might be easier. And then the rest will tell us whether they think it's correct or not correct. So point number 1, this theory uses social, recreational, familial, and vocational reinforcers rather than material rewards. Which theory is that from the above? Yes, from the above. So raise your hand if you have the answer, and I will see your answer. I will see your hand, and you, the first person I pick, yes, Rania. What theory is that? Please unmute yourself to speak.
It is a community enforcement approach.
Very good, the community reinforcement approach. I hope we all agree with that. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. The second one is uses drugs to support client recovery. So please raise your hand. Which approach uses drugs to support clients' recovery? Donald Conte, please unmute yourself. Sorry?
Pharmacotherapy.
Pharmacotherapy, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The third one. Individual and family sessions are held in homes, schools, courts, or the community. So what approach is that? Raise your hand. I want to see more hands raised. I don't know whether I'm seeing just a few. Alero.
Multisystemic therapy.
Sorry?
Multisystemic therapy. D.
Multi-systemic therapy. Do you agree? Do we agree?
No.
No?
Yes, I agree.
Yes. Yes and no. So who says no? Give us another one.
Agree.
You agree? Who does not agree? Who gives another one?
Contingency management.
Contingency management. Do you agree?
No.
I see no. Another guess.
What is contingency?
You insist it is contingency. Another person, another guess. Yes, we want to hear another guess. Who else is trying it? Yes, remember we said that there is an approach that is very intensive, goes into the adolescent's family, goes to find them in the community, goes even to school, goes even to court, and is very intensive.
Brief
Which one is
strategic
that?
family.
Sorry?
C. Brief strategic family therapy.
Brief strategic family therapy. Do you think it's that?
Yes.
No. One more guess before I tell you the answer.
Not systemic therapy.
Multisystemic therapy. You insist it is that. What about G? G for girl.
Okay, multidimensional family therapy. Okay.
Yes, you remember we said multidimensional family therapy is extremely intense, goes to all environments of the client, brings on board all dimensions of the client's environment. So the answer is actually G, but it is not very far from multisystemic, just that the intensity of multidimensional is even bigger than multisystemic. So thank you for that answer. Number 4, uses rewards to support behavior change. Who wants to give an answer? Uses rewards to
contingency management.
Has anybody raised their hand? Oh, you must raise your hand so that I pick you. So where are the hands that are raised? Can I see any raised hands? I don't see raised hands other than Alero. Let me see whether
we have Fatima, Dr. Charles Mudang.
Titilop. Hey, Titilop. Yes, I see you. Please unmute yourself and give the answer. Yes, unmute yourself. Yes, you need to unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. Click unmute on your screen so that we can hear you.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
okay, contingency.
So is the answer contingency management, class?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. It uses rewards to support behavior change. Good. Number 5, targets changing clients' thinking process to bring about behavior change. Targets changing clients' thinking process to bring about behavior change. So I want to see hands raised. Yes, who has raised their hand? I can't see. If I don't see you, you can speak out your name so that I get to know you've raised your hand. Yes, can I see a hand? Yes, Godfrey Zari. Please unmute yourself, Godfrey.
CBT.
CBT, very good. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, thank you. Now, the next one is aims to change the family interactions that sustain substance using behavior. Aims to change family interactions that sustain substance using behavior. What approach is that? Please raise your hand. If you're not raising your hand, if I can't see you and you're raising your hand, please, you can say your name and then I will pick you up to answer. Yes? So what approach is that? Yes, who's answering? Donald, who is answering? Who raised their hand? Yes, Donald. Donald, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, it is brief strategic family therapy.
Sorry?
Brief strategic family therapy.
Very good. Brief strategic family therapy. Remember we said strategies means interactions. So this therapy, which is called strategic family therapy, seeks to look at the dysfunctional interactions that sustain the substance use and change them with more functional interactions. Very good. Now we go to number 7. Works with behavioral recovery contracts. Works with behavioral recovery contracts. Now, where are the hands that are raised? I see people have covered their faces, so I can't see their hands. So I'm not able to know when they raise them. Okay, so who wants to give a try to that one? Works with behavioral recovery contracts.
That's coupled.
Everybody's hand is raised. Which approach uses behavioral recovery contract? You know, we are hunting for a treasure. So every time you get an answer, you put it in your bag, you have a treasure. Yes, what's with behavioral recovery contracts? What theory is that? You know, we're also waiting for the post test. Anybody wants to give it a try?
No, it's couples.
Fatima?
Yes, it's couples. What? Something about couples. What's that?
Yes, behavioral couples therapy.
Yes.
Excellent. That is where we said that the couple makes a contract with the therapist so that the client can be supported by the intimate partner. So thank you for that. Number 8, helps clients resolve their ambivalence about engaging in treatment and stopping their use. Helps clients resolve their ambivalence about engaging in treatment and stopping drug use. Anybody who wants to answer that one?
Yes.
Raise your hand, please. I need to see your hand up before you answer. Yes, anybody wants to try who has not spoken to us today? Yes, Bernard Conte. Bernard, unmute yourself.
Motivational interview.
Sorry?
It could go motivational enhancement.
Motivational enhancement. Is that true?
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. And finally, last but not least, this approach holds counselors solely responsible for treatment success. This approach holds the counselor solely responsible for the treatment success of the client. What approach is that? Who wants to give it a try? So I'm looking for your hands. I don't see them. I don't know where they are. Yes, who wants to give it a trial? That one, yes. This theory puts, or this approach puts a lot of work on the shoulders of the counselor. Actually, I should add that the counselor has to go to the family or to the home. It's actually done at home, at the home of clients. So I'm just trying to give you a bit of leakage of the answer. So now you can give me the answer. Yes? Anybody raise your hand? Sorry, who is that?
We have a couple of hands raised using the hand raise function. We have Samuel and Chitsanzo.
Pick one for me. Please pick one for me.
I will unmute Chitsanzo. I hope I'm saying that right.
One for me. Yes.
I guess it's contingency management.
Is it contingency management, class?
No.
Not quite. Another guess. Thank you for that guess. Another guess, which holds the counselors responsible largely for the success. Please pick another hand that's raised.
Yeah, I will go with Samuel Duckwalk. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Yes, Samuel, please unmute yourself.
Is it multi-systemic therapy?
Excellent, you got it. Multi-systemic therapy. We said the counselor goes to client homes, and that is one way of ensuring that we don't have dropout. It is like a mini version of the multi-dimensional family therapy. So thank you very much to everyone for your wonderful treasure hunt. Please keep your treasures. And when you do the assignments that Moses has given you, you're going to become even more familiar with some of the characteristics of these theories so that you get better at mastering them. Thank you very much. And I will stop there. And I don't know whether Kim was able to rejoin us.
She just rejoined.
Sorry?
She just rejoined for her bit at the end.
Just rejoined. Well, so I hand it over to Kim, and thank you, Jessica, for taking us through. So Kim, take it up. Thanks.
Perfect timing. So thank you, everybody. It looks like everybody got back on. I apologize for that blip earlier. A couple things. I am going to, as soon as we hang up, I already have the email written, send you the link to the post-test and the evaluation for this course. I have already set up the next course in a learning management system. The learning management system is called Health eKnowledge, and I will be sending you, probably you'll all be in bed, so sometime tonight for you, later in the afternoon for me, so you'll have it tomorrow morning, instructions on how to log into Health eKnowledge. And what we'll, so it's another new experiment that we'll get to try. The way I think we'll use that is that all of the materials will live there. So, the manuals will be there. I'll have the pre and post test there. Well, I'll be posting the slides, which I haven't been sending by email, but I'll post those. And the links to the Zoom meeting and the links to the video of the meeting will all be there. And I think the other thing that we'll do within that system is when you have homework assignments, instead of sending them to each other on email, we'll post them on the discussion group within the learning management system. So hopefully that will all work well, and you'll get those instructions by tomorrow morning. And I think that's everything I had to say. So we'll take tomorrow off, and then we will start again Friday. Is there anything else I needed to say, Beatrice or Moses? Jessica, have I forgotten anything important?
No.
So you've mentioned the trainer manual for UTC2, right?
Yes, I didn't. So once I have the majority of you having done the, so hopefully tomorrow, once the majority of you have done the post-test and the evaluation, then I will send out the trainer manual. And going forward in the future, what I'll do is in the learning management system, that will be available. It will appear once you've completed the post-test, so that everyone that completes the post-test, starting with UTC 3, will get the manual once they've completed the post-test. So you'll just get it automatically. It will appear for you once the post-test is done. But this time, I'll send it tomorrow after I've seen most of you complete the post-test. I think that's it. So thank you again. Apologies for the computer glitch. It looks like you all got on quickly again, so I'm glad it all worked out in the end. Thank you for your flexibility.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.